The auto industry is in disarray following a shocking disclosure that has shaken the highest ranks of power at General Motors and Ford. Massive problems have arisen for the American auto industry's heavy hitters. They simply cannot sell electric vehicles. What? Yes, that's true. In this video, we will get into the details of this shocking news and see what exactly is going to happen. So be with us until the end, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Rumors are circulating that General Motors CEO dealt the company a deadly blow as it was on the brink of shutting down its doors permanently. But let's focus on the heavyweight challenger Ford before we go into that shocking scandal. Surprisingly, the top American brand will lose an incredible $36,000 on every electric vehicle bought. It is no easy task to sell an automobile at a loss that exceeds its sticker price. The financial problems have intensified to a dangerous level, with Ford's electric vehicle division reporting a startling $1.3 billion operating deficit in only one quarter. The primary problem at hand is, what is causing this disaster to unfold? The merciless market dynamics and Ford's massive investments in electric vehicles are to blame. The sacred corridors of Ford's headquarters are ringing with alarms due to a perfect storm. Everything is setting up for a bombshell that could cause you to reconsider the electric vehicle trend. Let's discuss it and see how bad things are at GM and Ford. Are electric vehicles, EVs, the way of the future, or is there a sneaky scam? Ford's crying foul, blaming their financial woes on continuous investments in EVs and some tough market dynamics. They're dumping cash into crafting these swanky electric cars, but the sales aren't keeping pace. To add a dash of irony, a chunk of North American customers isn't ready to cough up premium prices for these fancy EVs, choosing gas or hybrid rides over the luxury electric ones. The reasons behind this might make you second-guess ever buying an EV again, but we'll get to that bombshell in a hot minute. Ford's F-150 Lightning, the much-hyped electric truck set to change the game, has hit a snag. It's now DOA. Yes, they've hit the brakes on production, and Jim Farley, Ford's bigwig, is urging everyone to see Ford as a startup and conveniently overlook the hefty losses they're racking up. Over 1,000 workers were given the boot in just 1 week, car accidents causing fatalities, and EV losses piling up like nobody's business. Mary Barra, GM's CEO, is front and center in this roller coaster. She's making decisions left, right, and center. But let's be honest, not all of them are home runs. GM is dealing with a laundry list of problems, from EV sales taking a nosedive to hiccups with their self-driving Cruise. And what's Mary Barra's grand plan in the middle of this chaos? She's boldly stating that GM won't be slashing prices and forget about affordable EVs under $30,000 because they won't be profitable, according to her. So she's sticking to luxury EVs, leaving the everyday Joe scratching their heads. General Motors had this ambitious plan in the pipeline to manufacture 400,000 EVs by mid-2024. However, reality hit hard, and they're swiftly backpedaling on that commitment. Why? The demand for their EVs is woefully lacking. In the third quarter of 2023, GM churned out approximately 32,000 EVs, a commendable 40% spike from the previous quarter. Yet, the hiccup arises when you realize that their sales only grew by 28%. The numbers don't align, prompting GM to push back the production timeline for their electric trucks, including the Chevy Silverado EV and the GMC Sierra EV, from 2024 to late 2025. A glaring red flag. This slowdown isn't the only strategy GM adopts. They're making hard-nosed decisions. Talk of cutting expenses, delaying factory plans, and even resorting to stock buybacks to appease shareholders is in the air. Let's address the proverbial elephant in the room, Cruise, GM's robot taxi unit. What was initially anticipated as a triumph for GM has become a nightmare. Following a severe incident where a driverless vehicle fatally struck a pedestrian, Cruise has slammed the brakes on all operations. Top executives at Cruise have tendered resignations, and layoffs are looming. As if that weren't enough, GM's financial standing is taking a considerable hit, with the United Auto Workers strike denting their coffers by a hefty $800 million. Shifting gears to Ford, There's a subplot involving dealers being coerced into spending exorbitant sums, thousands and millions, to get on board with selling Ford's EVs. Spare a thought for the workforce caught in the crossfire. GM is making deep cuts, letting go of approximately 1,300 workers as they wind down the Chevy Bolt and Camaro production. The Orion assembly plant, the epicenter of these layoffs, is transforming electric trucks, but it won't be operational until 2028. Now, put yourself in the shoes of those dedicated workers, showing up day after day, giving their all, only to be blindsided by the news that their jobs have vanished. It's a gut-wrenching scenario. Shifting our focus back to Ford's CEO, Jim Farley, here's a tidbit that might make you double take. 50% of EV buyers are ditching their electric rides for hybrids. In the automotive landscape in 2023, hybrids took center stage, with standouts like the Toyota Prius commanding a whopping 88.3% of car sales in the US. In contrast, EVs trailed behind at a modest 6.9%. The driving force behind this shift? Affordability and the absence of the cumbersome charging ritual. The average hybrid boasted a price tag of around $42,318, a far cry from the hefty $59,400 you'd need to shell out for an EV. Let's zero in on Ford's turf. In the second quarter of 2022, Ford dealers were flying through 86.4% of their Mach-E inventory within a brisk 30 days. Fast forward to 2023, and that figure nosedives to a mere 27.7% despite having more than twice the inventory. The stark reality? Sales for the Mach-E decreased by 90% yearly, dropping from a robust 10,941 vehicles to a mere 633. Eric Merkel, Ford's head of US sales analysis, bravely attempts to acknowledge the overall uptick in EV sales. Yet, he can't escape the truth. He concedes that a substantial chunk of these unsold Mach-E units is languishing in dealer lots, far from flying off the shelves. Ford did an impressive thing the previous year by moving 70% of its Lightning stock in just 30 days. Only 35% of the inventory finders were there this year, which is a different story. The excitement about this electric truck that was there at first has turned into disinterest. But what does Ford want to do? A vast 600,000 electric vehicles, EVs, are on their list of goals for this year. But here's the catch. They expect to lose an extensive $3 billion. To make things even more complicated, Ford is telling its dealers they need to spend a cool $1 million to get EV certification so they can sell these high-tech but seemingly useless cars. Imagine being a dealer who spent a lot of money on these EVs only to see them collecting dust. The story gets more complicated when some Ford dealers, mainly on the East Coast, say they are unhappy with the company's production because it doesn't match what customers want. Things are getting messier because Ford stores are overloaded with extra Lightning and Mach-E units that won't move off the lots. Dealers are turning down Ford orders, which is unthinkable. Ford's situation isn't just a one-off problem, it's a clear sign of a bigger problem in the EV market. Even Tesla, known as the king of electric cars, is having the same problem and is cutting prices and offering deals to get rid of their stock. The most surprising thing is that states with the most EV sales also have the slowest growth. Remember when Ford said they would take 200,000 orders for the Lightning? It turns out that an amazing 70% of those orders still haven't been finished. There is a lot of uncertainty, and no one knows if the buyers will still be there when this Lightning finally rolls onto the lots. The sales numbers for Ford in November were not good. They were down 5% from the same month last year. Even though EV sales are at all-time highs, they are still a tiny fraction of the sales of their gas-powered cars. Pickup trucks and SUVs, which have always been Ford's strong suits, are also taking a beating, which is why the company is cutting back on its investments in electric vehicles. They cut $2 billion in planned spending, which included closing a battery plant in Michigan and putting off production at a plant in Kentucky. Regarding people, the UAW strike at Ford's plants stopped production, meaning that workers were temporarily laid off and faced a lot of insecurity. Ford lost a vast $1.7 billion in earnings because of the strike, even after it ended. Like GM, The new labor agreement is good for workers, but adds $900 to the price of each car, which is terrible for a company that is already having a hard time with money. As a coach, the Biden administration is working on a new game plan with strict rules on emissions. By 2032, they want 67% of all new cars to be electric. So, are electric vehicles a bad idea? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.